Okay, well, thank you for the earlier part of your remarks. I say this, and I might not be absolutely neutral on this point, but generally speaking, I think we are a much more open campaign than the other campaign. And this is quite a frequent experience for me, is to be interviewed by an overseas newspaper, a European newspaper, or from somewhere else in the world, or from a broadcasting station elsewhere in the world. And they say, oh, it's good to interview you. We tried getting somebody from the other campaign, but we couldn't get hold of them, And so I think generally we do engage more, we try and engage more. The media, right. The only part of the media that I think really works for us really well is social media. I think we're very strong in social media, and it's a very important part of the campaign. We have mixed fortunes elsewhere. Some newspapers are very stridently anti-independence, and that's their right. The newspapers can, in a sense, do what they like in that respect. And it's clear that there are titles which, in terms of the referendum campaign, are not, they're not engaged in journalism. They're engaged in advocacy for the No campaign. We do quite well with some titles, and I think there are some Scottish newspapers which I think will actually come out for yes before we get to the referendum. I wouldn't say a majority, but I think some will come out for yes before the referendum. Broadcasting is a huge opportunity for us because it goes back to the point about conversations, really. We will have issues with individual programmes, and we might make representations about particular programmes and say that we didn't think we were properly represented, and that's part of the campaign. However, I do believe that the broadcasters will provide the key platforms as we get closer to the vote. And one of the things that gives me enormous confidence is how much better a team we can field in broadcasting events than I think the No campaign can. And just from my own experience and knowing the individuals involved on both sides, I honestly think Better Together are really struggle to put up credible, persuasive, charismatic figures into broadcasting events. Whereas I do think there's a lot of talent in the Yes campaign, and I don't just mean Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon, who are both excellent people in a broadcasting environment. There are plenty of other people who I think are really very, very good. Patrick Harvey from the Green Party, I would mention as one example. I think Patrick's very good in broadcast. There are others who are not politicians who I also think are very good. So a large part of the population, even in this age of the internet, television in particular is still where most people get their news, form their opinions, and I think as we get closer to the vote, I think both the BBC and STV and the programmes they broadcast will be enormously important, and I think that's one of the key platforms for us winning. Is going to be people watching programmes, listening to debates, hearing both sides lay out their case in those key broadcasting events. And we know that David Cameron doesn't want to be part of that. He's backed out. But I think whoever is fielded by the No campaign, I think we can do better and put on a stronger show.
Thanks for your question. Just to go back to this 1707 Act of the Union, there's actually a document, I don't know if you've seen it, and it lists the amount of money that was paid to each Earl and how much it equates to, in today's money, it's millions and millions of pounds to persuade them to vote to be part of the Union. So yeah, you're absolutely right, it was coerced, I think would be the nicest possible way of saying it. In regards to the Labour Party, to explain my side, I was a Labour supporter growing up all my life. My family were Labour, and I joined the Labour Party when I was at university. But since, much like Carolyn, since a very early age, I was always for independence. I believed it was the best thing for Scotland. And throughout my time at university, I would speak to some of the Labour MPs and MSPs and some of the higher ups. I would discuss, I support independence, but I'm also a Labour member. How about going for independence? And I was told to vote for the SNP. If you want independence, you vote for the SNP. Now, it's not really a very good vote-winning strategy by the Labour Party, to be honest, and that's probably why they're down to about 3,000 members these days, which I'm still one of. But I absolutely think you're right that there is a fragment, and I think the main problem the Labour Party has in Scotland right now is that it's not a Labour Party. It's not what Labour Party stands for. The Labour Party was created to be for the workers. The Labour Party was be there to help fairness and equality, to help people who were struggling, giving them a helping hand, rather than just tossing them aside. You know, when would Keir Hardie ever imagine saying there's a something for nothing society in Scotland? It's absolutely ridiculous. But in this campaign, and part of what Labour for Independence is trying to do is to say to people, and a lot of people are responding to it, that it's okay to be a Labour supporter, it's okay to be a Labour voter. This has nothing to do with party politics, this referendum. This is about Scotland's future. One of our key messages we put out from our first leaflet was it's not a vote for Alex Salmond and the SNP, it's a vote for Scotland. And to be honest, it's working, and it's getting through to the Labour people we've seen. The polls have went up. I mean, since Labour for Independence started, I think it was 14% of Labour supporters were going to vote yes. It's now up to 23, 24%. I'm not taking all the credit for that, but you know, I think it's a positive step, and the numbers continuing to rise. And as the message gets forward that this campaign is not about Alex Salmond, it's not about the SNP, it's about voting for Scotland's future and for your kids' future and your grandparents' future.